Long, long ago when the earth was young, and all animate and inanimate beings were still in the process of assuming their respective temporary and permanent shapes, animals could talk with men and gods. At that time, a batch of the forefathers of the Achiks came to the country of Ohom from the far-off land of Ahsong Nono, which was located near the mountains of Afil Jangsha, by the waters of the Ningkuchot in Ahsong Taibotka. At length, they settled permanently in Bindengu, Rongachingkhol, and Takri Malika in the vicinity of the Balfakram hill in Achik Asong. In this period, the Songdu River was a small streamlet no larger than a gutter, the buffalo was no bigger than a chicken, the implements of husbandry were drosseloid, steel was unknown, clothes were of the coarsest kind, and no better salt than a mixture of grit and dust was available in the markets. But the people of those times were of gigantic stature. They often reached 25 or 30 cubits in height, and their chests measured 6 or 7 cubits in breadth. In this age, too, there was free intercourse between gods and goddesses of the upper regions and human beings of the lower. The divinities often formed deep friendships and contracted marriage with mankind. Both heaven and earth met and adored each other. The result of all this was that people were then more demigods than men proper. According to their respective virtues and vices, some of them had been destined to live and die like ordinary mortals, while others attained eternal glory and immortality. So, the aforementioned settlers formed a community of demigods. They led happy, peaceful, and carefree lives. For justice, they appealed to mere physical force, regarding only the right of the strongest and believing that their success in physical contests justified their cause, not the righteousness of their cause. In short, might was right, and strength ruled supreme. The settlers cultivated the soil and bartered and exchanged commodities among themselves and with the mysterious people of the East. Their marketplace was called Gore Briora Ahding Diplokni Guwari. Among this community of demigods was a man named Misi Ahrakpa Saljong Gingamatpa, who was one of the strongest beings of that age. He had a daughter named Kabu Renche Norimbi Dikkimbi, who was the most beautiful and most energetic woman of the time. Matrilineally, she belonged to Rongbang Mhari clan. She was married to Dumarong Dutchrong Aiming Gring Wana Chining Gring Vaja with all the dignity and solemnity customary to that age. He, however, died suddenly of an emaciating illness with which he was attacked while clearing jungle for jum cultivation at a place known as Missini Jakrimra Saljongani Redokra. The god Misi Saljong had slain him with his yellow rod of malady for clearing the virgin forest at the place to which he was wont to frequent. After the premature death of her husband, Kabu Renche was seduced by her maternal uncle named Misi Chipimpa Ahning Logo Racha Chining Sambal Gitil. She was renamed Nodo Notaki Balangar Balongajap by him. In thus marrying his own niece, the uncle had committed the sin of incest, which was the greatest social sin or marang of the time according to the Achik social code. Now, the circumstances under which Goera was born were peculiarly strange. The period of gestation lasted for full 7 summers and full 7 winters. During the time of his conception, Bisikram Bidhatore, the Supreme Divine Mother, foretold Wana Wangga Dudu Chompa Aropa Bindopa, the patriarchal head of the tiger family, that the child after birth would grow up to be the strongest being in the world. So, the prophecy excited him to extreme jealousy. He wanted to kill Nodo Notaki immediately, but Bisikram Bidhatore dissuaded him from carrying out his murderous scheme and asked him simply to dog her steps and measure his strength with the child when he should grow up to be a man. So, Wana Wangga began to shadow the mother of Goera, during which time he once devoured Chilshe Michik, one of her maidservants. When full 7 summers and full 7 winters had elapsed, Nodo Notaki was in travail for full 7 days and 7 nights. In the meantime, the child used to declare from within the womb that it should be known by no other name than that of Goera. The relations of Nodo Notaki were panic-stricken at this unusual occurrence. They devoutly invoked the aid of Saljong, the tutelary god of the firmament and of fertility, to save the lives of both the mother and child. They vowed that they would sacrifice a giant black he-goat in his honor if their prayer should be heard. Then they boiled water in 7 huge earthen pots to bathe the baby when born. At the early dawn of the 8th day, the long-expected child came into the light of day, crying aloud in a clear defined voice, "Goera, the invincible." At his birth, Rom Rosh and Chuz Dangs, the favorite maidservants of Bahbara, the goddess mother, acted as midwives. The extensive area of land wherein Goera was born and which belonged to Nodo Notaki by right of the matriarchal usage of that age, was called Ahsong Ahbugrang Shigan Shelgrang, Ahtutru Chamegar Misini no Kicham Saljongui Kihgongdam. The locality in front of the house of his birth was known as Binding Salaram, the place behind it as Sholing Rangitdu, and the space under it as Mao Gipeng Rongama Kueng. Now, Wana Wangga went about in concealment beside the mother of Goera as the time of the child's birth approached. So, no sooner had Goera come out into the light of the world than Wana Wangga sprang upon the babe in order to devour him outright. But Goera, even as an infant, nimbly jumped out of his reach and escaped from his clutches. Goera was born full-teethed. As a babe, he was extraordinarily clever, intelligent, and handsome. His body was a paragon of health and strength. His ruddy form radiated activity and power. He never wept or cried. Not a single tear ever dropped from his eyes. At daybreak on the morning of his birth, Nodo Notaki went to a nearby sparkling stream to bathe. She left the infant alone in the house, sleeping on the floor curtained all around by blue silk and golden muslin cloth. As soon as her back was turned, Goera got up and made his way to the Nokfante, the bachelor's house, in the village. A number of long massive tom-toms hung on hooks of granite stone in the main room of the dwelling. Goera began to beat the drums frenziedly and danced a sprightly martial dance, crying out repeatedly in exultant modulation, "Goera! Goera!" Nodo Notaki apprehended that someone was playing pranks on her newborn child, so she hurried back from the stream. Great was her surprise when she found her own babe alone dancing vigorously, beating the tom-toms madly, and shouting out hilariously his own name. As he caught sight of his mother, the child obediently came running to her. She gave him suck, lulled him to sleep, placed him on the floor, and went away. But the unnatural child merely feigned sleep. For, no sooner had his mother departed a second time, than the adroit youngster leaped up, wandered about the village and its surroundings, and made himself acquainted with the topography of the place. Still, he managed to return to the house, lay on the floor, and pretend to be asleep at the exact moment his mother came back. When he awoke, she fondled him lovingly. The precocious child danced on her lap in the most martial manner, exultantly shouting out, "Goera! Goera. Nodo Notaki kept silent about the strange ways of her babe. She pondered his actions deeply in her heart and sincerely wondered what sort of a being he would grow up to be.